My sister called me a nobody at her baby shower. When her husband walked out a week later, she had no one left until I said, "Nobody cares to help." I stood in the corner of my sister's extravagant baby shower watching her hold court like a queen bee among her adoring subjects. The crystal champagne flute in my hand remained untouched as I observed Summer, radiant in her designer maternity dress, laughing at something one of her friends had whispered. "My name is Hayden, and I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, the steady one, the one who never quite measured up to my younger sister's dazzling presence. Today was no different. Oh my God. Did you see what Hayden's wearing?" Summer's voice carried across the room, deliberately loud enough for me to hear. I told her this was a formal event. I glanced down at my navy blazer and tailored pants, perfectly appropriate attire for any occasion. But, of course, it wasn't pink and frilly enough for Summer's Instagram-worthy celebration. Riley, my best friend since childhood, appeared at my side. "Don't let her get to you," she whispered, squeezing my arm. "You look fantastic." "I'm fine," I replied, though the knot in my stomach suggested otherwise. Someone needs to stay sober enough to handle the gift list. The afternoon dragged on with forced smiles and passive-aggressive comments until we reached the gift-opening ceremony. I'd spent weeks designing and commissioning a custom-made mobile for the nursery, incorporating elements of our shared childhood memories. "Next up," announced Summer's friend Melissa, "is Hayden's gift." Summer tore through the careful wrapping, her perfectly manicured nails making quick work of my hours of preparation. She lifted the mobile, her expression shifting from anticipation to barely concealed disappointment. "Oh, how crafty," she said, setting it aside without a second glance. Moving on. I felt my cheeks burn as several guests exchanged knowing looks. Riley's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. "Actually," I spoke up, my voice stronger than I felt. "Each charm represents a moment from our childhood. The butterfly is from Dad's garden. The star from, seriously, Hayden?" Summer cut me off, rolling her eyes. "Nobody wants to hear about your DIY project right now. We're celebrating my baby, not your whatever this is." The room fell silent. I could feel every eye on me waiting for my response. "I just thought, that's your problem," Summer interrupted again, her voice dripping with disdain. "You always think too much. While you're busy thinking, the rest of us are actually living. I mean, look at you, 32, single, and what do you have to show for it? You're practically a nobody." The words hit like physical blows. I'd heard Summer's casual cruelty before, but never so publicly, never so deliberately meant to wound. "Summer," our mother's scandalized voice broke through the tension. "Apologize to your sister." Summer waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, Mom. I'm just being honest. Besides, Hayden knows I'm right. Don't you, sis?" I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The room seemed to spin slightly as I gathered my purse. "Congratulations on your baby," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "I hope she grows up to be kinder than her mother." "Hayden, wait," Riley called after me as I headed for the door. "Let her go," I heard Summer say. "She's always been dramatic. Now who's next?" I see a Tiffany box. Outside, the spring air hit my face like a wake-up call. I made it to my car before the tears started, but they weren't tears of sadness. For the first time in my life, I felt something else burning through me. Determination. My phone buzzed with messages from Riley. "That was horrible. Are you okay? Want me to come over?" "She's such a witch. I can't believe she said that." I typed back, "I'm fine. Stay and keep track of everything. I need to know who witnessed this." Because in that moment, I made a decision. Summer had always gotten away with treating me like this because I let her. Because I was the good sister, the one who took the high road, the one who made excuses for her behavior. Not anymore. I started my car, my hand steady on the wheel as I pulled away from the perfectly manicured suburban house with its perfectly arranged baby shower and my perfectly awful sister. "Nobody," I whispered to myself, tasting the word that would change everything. "We'll see about that." As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another sisterly spat. This was the moment everything would change. Summer had always been the sun our family revolved around, but even the brightest stars can burn out. And I had a feeling her light was about to dim considerably. A week after the baby shower disaster, I was buried in work at my office when Riley's call lit up my phone. I almost ignored it. Deadlines don't meet themselves, but something about her third attempt in 5 minutes made me pause. "This better be good," I answered, pushing away from my desk. "I'm drowning in blueprints here." Dominic left Summer. Riley's voice crackled with urgency. Like, packed his bags while she was at yoga left. My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. "What?" "It gets worse. He cleaned out their joint account first." I sank back into my chair, my mind racing. "But she's 7 months pregnant." "He left a note," Riley continued. "Said he couldn't handle her anymore, that the baby shower was the last straw. Apparently, he watched how she treated you and realized she'd never change. A hollow laugh escaped me. So my public humiliation was his wake-up call. That's ironic. She's been calling everyone, crying about how she can't afford the mortgage on her boutique salary alone. Your mom's not answering. She's still on that cruise with her new husband. I rubbed my temples, fighting the satisfaction that threatened to surface. How do you know all this? I'm at her house now. It's bad, Hayden. She's talking about selling everything. Through the phone, I heard Summer's voice in the background, high-pitched and hysterical. The Cartier bracelet. He bought it for our anniversary. That bastard. Hold on, Riley said to me, then away from the phone. Summer, put down the scissors. That dress costs more than my car. I heard shuffling, a crash, and Summer's voice again. I don't care. He bought it for the charity gala. Everything he touched has to go. Hayden. Riley's voice returned urgent. I have to go before she destroys evidence we might need for the divorce lawyer. Just think about calling her, okay? She's still your sister. The line went dead, leaving me in my silent office. I stood and walked to the window, watching the city bustle below. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, Summer's perfect life crumbling around her. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Summer. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? Hayden? Her voice was small, nothing like the confident woman who'd torn me down a week ago. I need help. What happened to nobody being able to help you? A sharp intake of breath. I deserve that. But please, I don't know what to do. Dominic's gone and I can't. I can't. She dissolved into sobs. Real ones, not the manipulative tears she'd perfected over the years. Have you called Dad? I asked, knowing the answer. He's not returning my calls either, she sniffled. Nobody is, except Riley. And now, you. I closed my eyes, remembering Grandpa Silas's words from one of his letters. The true test of character isn't how you treat those who can help you, but how you help those who once hurt you. Summer, I said finally, stop destroying your clothes. I'll come over after work. You will? Hope crept into her voice. Even after, I confirmed, then added, but this isn't a blank check, Summer. Things need to change. I know, she whispered. I know they do. After hanging up, I sat at my desk and pulled out Grandpa Silas's latest letter from my drawer. He'd sent it right after I told him about the baby shower, his familiar scrawl filling 3 pages with wisdom I hadn't been ready to hear. Sometimes, he'd written, the universe has its own way of balancing the scales. Your job isn't to push them further, but to decide who you want to be when they settle. My phone lit up with a text from Riley. She's calmer now, but fair warning. She's already talking about moving in with you. I smiled grimly. Summer didn't know it yet, but if she wanted my help, she'd have to do it my way. No more manipulations. No more princess act. No more treating people like stepping stones. Standing up, I gathered my things and told my assistant I was leaving early. As I drove towards Summer's house, I thought about the sister who'd once held my hand on the first day of school, who'd cried with me when Dad left, who'd somehow lost her way in the pursuit of perfection. This wasn't the revenge I'd imagined, but maybe it was something better, a chance to rebuild not just Summer's life, but our relationship. On my terms this time, I pulled into her driveway, noting the scattered designer clothes on the front lawn. Riley sat on the porch, looking exhausted. Ready? She asked as I approached. I nodded, squaring my shoulders. Ready to help her rebuild. But first, she needs to understand what it means to fall. Inside, I could hear Summer crying. It was time to teach my little sister the difference between being a somebody and being a good person. And this time, I wouldn't be the only one learning hard lessons. I found Summer sitting in her walk-in closet, surrounded by shredded designer dresses and torn shopping bags. Her mascara had created dark rivers down her cheeks, and her perfectly styled hair was now a tangled mess. You came, she whispered, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I did. I remained in the doorway, maintaining my distance. Are you done destroying everything? She glanced around at the chaos she'd created. I wanted to hurt him back. By cutting up clothes you bought with his money? I raised an eyebrow. That's not hurting him, Summer. That's hurting yourself. Riley appeared behind me with a steaming mug. Here's your tea, some. I added honey, like you wanted. Summer took the mug, but didn't drink. What am I going to do? The baby's coming in 2 months, and I can't even make the mortgage payment next week. I crossed my arms. Sell the house. What? Her head snapped up. I can't. This is my dream home. Dreams change, I said firmly. Right now, you need practical solutions, not dreams. Summer's lower lip trembled. But where would I go? I might have an idea, I said, pulling out Grandpa Silas's letter. But first, I want you to read something. She took the letter reluctantly, her eyes scanning the pages. "The greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to start over," she read aloud. "Grandpa wrote this to you after the baby shower," I confirmed. "He's always had a way of seeing through our family drama." Summer's face crumpled. "I was horrible to you that day. I've been horrible to you for years." "Yes, you have. I'm sorry," she whispered. I shook my head. "Sorry isn't enough this time, Summer. I need you to understand why you did it. Why you've always done it." Riley quietly excused herself, leaving us alone in the closet full of destroyed dreams. "I was jealous," Summer admitted after a long silence. "Of what?" "I'm the nobody. Remember?" She flinched. "You've always known who you are. Dad left, Mom remarried 3 times, but you stayed steady. I've been trying so hard to be perfect because I thought if I was perfect enough, people wouldn't leave. How'd that work out?" "Hayden, please," she pleaded. "I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm scared." I sat down beside her, careful not to touch any of the scattered clothing. "Grandpa has a cottage near his place in Cedar Grove. It's small, but it's furnished and paid for. He's offered to let you stay there." "Cedar Grove? But that's 3 hours away." "Exactly. Away from this mess. Away from the gossip. Away from your old life." I picked up a shredded Gucci tag. "Away from who you've become." Summer stared into her tea. Would you come with me just to help me get settled?" "I have conditions," I said firmly. "First, you get therapy. Real therapy, not those life coaching sessions you brag about on Instagram." She nodded slowly. "Second, you get a real job. The boutique isn't enough to support a baby." "But I don't know how to do anything else," she protested. "Grandpa knows people at the local community college. They have a business program you could start in the fall." Summer looked around her destroyed closet, then down at her pregnant belly. "I really messed up, didn't I?" "Yes," I agreed. "But messing up isn't the end. It's what you do after that matters." She picked up Grandpa's letter again. "The universe has its own way of balancing the scales," she read. "He's right. I've been awful to so many people. And now you have a choice," I finished. "You can stay here and drown, or you can come to Cedar Grove and learn to swim." Summer was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Will you help me pack what's left?" I stood up and offered her my hand. "I'll help you pack what you need, not what's left. The baby doesn't care about designer labels." As we sorted through the wreckage of her closet, separating practical items from the destroyed remnants of her old life, Summer paused. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "After everything I've done, you could have just let me fall." I thought about the satisfaction I'd felt hearing about Dominic leaving, about the revenge I'd wanted to take. Then I thought about Grandpa's words and the sister I used to know. "Because letting you fall would make me like you," I said honestly. "And I'd rather be a nobody with integrity than a somebody without it." Summer nodded, tears falling again. But different this time. Quieter. More real. "When can we leave?" she asked. "Tomorrow," I decided. New day. New start. As we continued packing, I sent a quick text to Grandpa Silas. "She's ready to learn. We'll see you tomorrow." His response came quickly. "Sometimes the longest journey starts with the shortest fall. Bring her home." The 3-hour drive to Cedar Grove stretched into 4 as we stopped twice for Summer's bathroom breaks. My sister sat quietly in the passenger seat, one hand resting on her belly, the other clutching her phone, still hoping for a message from Dominic that wouldn't come. "You should turn it off," I suggested, glancing at the device. "Give yourself some peace." "I can't." She stared at the screen. "What if he realizes he made a mistake?" "The only mistake," I said, turning onto the familiar country road that led to Grandpa's property, "was thinking he wouldn't eventually see through the act." Summer's head snapped toward me. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You know exactly what it means. The perfect wife, the perfect home, the perfect Instagram life. It was all an act, and acts get exhausting to watch." "You don't understand," she protested. "I had to what? Belittle everyone around you? Spend money you didn't have? Treat your own sister like dirt?" The phone slipped from her fingers into her lap. "I didn't mean to become this person. No one ever does." I pulled into the gravel driveway of the cottage. "But you did, and now you get to decide who you want to be next." Grandpa Silas was waiting on the porch, his weathered face creasing into a smile as we approached. Summer hadn't seen him since Christmas when she'd complained about the quaint holiday dinner and insisted on leaving early for a social event. "There's my girls," he called out, descending the steps with surprising agility for his age. Summer hung back, but he wrapped her in a hug anyway. "None of that now," he said firmly. "This is home for as long as you need it." The cottage was small but charming, with 2 bedrooms and a view of the lake through pine trees. Summer walked through it slowly, taking in the worn but comfortable furniture, the handmade quilts, the distinct lack of luxury she was used to. "The nearest Starbucks is 40 minutes away," I informed her, watching her reaction carefully. She surprised me by laughing, a short bitter sound. "I guess I'll have to learn to make my own coffee." You'll have to learn to make a lot of things, Grandpa said, settling into his favorite armchair, starting with peace with yourself. Summer sank onto the couch, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I don't know how. That's why you're here. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Your first step is in here. She opened it with trembling fingers, pulling out a printed schedule. What's this? Your new life, I explained. Morning shifts at the local diner starting next week. Afternoon appointments with Dr. Marshall. She's a therapist who specializes in life transitions. Evening classes at the community college once the baby comes. A diner. Summer's voice rose. I can't work at a diner. I don't know how you'll learn, Grandpa interrupted firmly. Just like your sister learned when she stayed here after your father left. Summer turned to me, surprised. You stayed here? For 6 months, I nodded. While you were busy following Mom to spa retreats, I was here, waiting tables and figuring out who I wanted to be. I didn't know. You never asked. Grandpa cleared his throat. The past is done. What matters is now. Are you ready to do the work, Summer? She looked around the cottage again, then down at her schedule. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, he said. But choosing to stay means choosing to change. Really change. Not just pretend to. And if I don't want to change, she challenged, a flash of her old self showing through. I stood up. Then you can call Riley to pick you up. I'm sure your destroyed designer clothes miss you. Summer's defiance crumbled. I'm sorry. I don't know how to be anyone else. That's why we start small, Grandpa said gently. Tomorrow, you'll learn to make coffee. Next week, you'll learn to serve it. The rest will come. I watched my sister absorb this, saw the moment she realized there was no easy way out, no quick fix, no social media solution to her problems. Will you stay? She asked me. Just for a few days? I'll come back on weekends, I promised. But this journey, it's yours to make. Grandpa stood, his joints creaking. I'll leave you girls to get settled. Dinner's at 6. We eat together in the main house. No phones allowed. After he left, Summer walked to the window, staring out at the lake. I used to love coming here as kids. Remember how we'd swim all day? Before you discovered designer swimsuits and country club pools? She winced. I really have been awful, haven't I? Yes, I agreed. But you're here now. That's something. She turned to face me, one hand protectively over her belly. I don't want my daughter to be like me. Then show her how to be different, I said simply. Starting tomorrow with coffee. Summer nodded. And for the first time since Dominic left, I saw something new in her eyes. Not fear or anger or denial, but determination. Maybe, just maybe, my sister was ready to become somebody worth being. 3 weeks into Summer's new life, I drove up to Cedar Grove for my weekend visit and found her sitting on the cottage steps, reading through a stack of old letters. Look what I found in the attic, she called out as I approached. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup, a far cry from the polished socialite of a month ago. What are they? I settled beside her, noting the familiar handwriting. Letters from Dad. She handed me one. Grandpa kept them all, even the ones we never saw. My heart thumped as I unfolded the yellowed paper. Dad's distinctive scrawl filled the page. Dear Dad, I know I've made a mess of things. The girls deserve better than a father who runs when things get tough. Aiden looks at me with such disappointment, and Summer, she's already learning to hide her hurt behind that bright smile. He knew, Summer whispered. He knew what I was becoming even back then. I skimmed through more letters, each one a window into our father's guilt and regret. Why didn't Grandpa show us these? I asked him that this morning. Summer shifted, adjusting her growing belly. He said we weren't ready to understand them until now. The screen door creaked, and Grandpa emerged with a tray of lemonade. Thought you girls might be thirsty. Why now? I asked, holding up the letters. Why show us these now? He settled into the porch rocker, his eyes distant. Because now you're both old enough to see that running away doesn't fix anything. Your father ran from his problems. Summer, you ran from yourself. And, Hayden, you've been running from your anger. Summer picked up another letter. There's one here from right after my sweet 16. He was there, wasn't he? Watching from across the street? Grandpa nodded. He came to every important event, stayed just out of sight, said he didn't deserve to be part of your lives after what he'd done. Coward, I muttered. Maybe, Grandpa agreed. But he was a coward who never stopped loving you. Sometimes love isn't enough to make people brave. Summer touched her belly. I don't want my daughter to have a father who watches from across the street. Then maybe it's time to tell Dominic that, I suggested gently. She shook her head. He won't answer my calls. No, Grandpa said, but he answers mine. We both stared at him. He calls every week to check on you, he continued, looking at Summer. Wants to make sure you're okay, that the baby's healthy. He's staying with his brother in Milwaukee. Summer's hands trembled. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed to find yourself first. Can't fix a marriage when you're still broken yourself. I watched my